Hello Year 4. So we're at the stage with our map making where we've done the background, so we've aged it with watercolour techniques with a gradient around the outside. The next step is to kind of start styling our island. So the approach I've gone for is like a few different areas of land, okay? So I've got a main area here and a couple of little islands off the coast over here. So the idea is I've got to think about some stuff that I want to add to my island. Now, you really ought to use source material for this. So you want to research treasure maps, landmarks on treasure maps. Try and use actual images to help you with this next step. You're going to need a pencil, possibly an eraser. If you want to erase over the top of watercolour, it will actually work if it's dry. So for example, you can see here, I've erased that pencil line. So just because it's got a layer of watercolour on there, doesn't mean you can't erase something if you want to remove it. So I'm going to have a go at adding some stuff here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put kind of like a lighthouse on this little island here. And although you can't see it, I am using source material. So I've made a little collection of images that I plan to use. Actually, I'm going to make this more of an observatory. It's going to have like a telescope coming out here. And a little window here. And let's have a little house coming out the side here. So yeah, I'm referring to images to help me with this. I'm not just making this up out of my head. I'm just going to move this slightly so you can see this better. On this little island down here, I'm going to put a little tent encampment. So here's some little tents that are on this island. Now, all of these pencil marks, if you're happy with them, we will be outlining them eventually with pen, with a very fine Sharpie pen. So if you haven't got a fine Sharpie, face-to-face students, I can let you borrow one. And virtual students, you might want to see if you could get hold of a fine black pen, something to outline your work when it's complete. So let me just let you know the steps to this. So step 1 is the pencil drawing. And then step 2 is a watercolour, kind of a wash, but with, specific details over these pencil drawings. And then when the watercolour wash is dry, you'll be detailing it with your fine black pen. So here's my little tent here. So these are my little tents on this island. Okay, over on my main island, let's see, I'm going to put a castle up here. So let's put in, again, I'm not just making this up out of my head. I am actually looking, as I'm drawing this, at some images that I decided that I liked, that I thought would be good for a treasure map. So I'm copying this castle. Now you don't want to rush this step because the building blocks for a good composition is the drawing. If you get the drawing right, then pretty much everything else will follow. Okay, so this castle's got different turrets and different areas of where the roof is different shapes. So I'm just adding the different parts of the castle. There's another little bit of roof here. And there's like a defence wall here around the castle. And it's got kind of I'm doing some kind of contour lines here to show that this is built up onto a bit of a slope, which is how castles would have been built. They would have been built raised up so they could see their enemies approaching, so on high ground. So now another tip for this is make sure you use a sharp pencil, and ideally a hard lead, something that's going to make quite detailed marks on the page, so that when you outline it in pen, it's very clear where your pen marks are going to go. So this is an HB, this pencil. Even better would be a 2H if you've got a set of art pencils. Nothing that ends in a B, okay, because that will make your work kind of smudgy and dark. So you want either an HB, which is kind of what most children have in terms of, you know, stationery, an HB, or even better would be a 2H. Right, down here I'm going to put a little temple. So here's my temple. It's kind of going to look a little bit Aztec. So there's the first layer of my Aztec temple that I'm putting here. Okay, now remember, if I don't like any of my marks, I can erase them, okay? This pencil will erase over the top of a background watercolour wash. But don't push really hard with your pencil, okay? And one of the sayings we have in art is keep it light until it's right. If you're pushing really hard with your pencil and then you decide you don't like something and you want to erase it, you're going to have difficulty removing it if you've pushed really hard. So just bear that in mind as you're drawing. Right, I'm just going to put some windows here. So you can see, because my pencil's not too smudgy, I'm able to make some quite precise marks that I will later go over in pen. So there's like an entrance. And then this I'm going to put kind of contour lines again, just to show the contours of the land that it's sitting on. Okay, and then here I'm going to put kind of like a pagoda. That's going to go kind of roughly in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to put in. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I could draw like that. If you're looking at source material, it's really going to help you. And the only way you get better at drawing is by practicing. So don't limit yourself. Try to be ambitious with the things that you choose to draw on this map. Try to pick something that maybe would be a challenge to draw, but you're going to give it a try. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm putting this up on like a little kind of plinth, this little pagoda. So it's got steps that go around it. Okay, let's see, what else shall we have? Maybe we'll have a little windmill over here. So this is a little rural area of my treasure map. So putting in like the blades of the windmill. Okay, I'll put a little roof on my windmill here. And let's put a little door there and a little window there. Okay, let's see, what else could we have? Oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do actually. I'm going to do a sailboat out in the sea, just round about here. So there's going to be part of my ship. These are the explorers and adventurers who are coming to check out the island. Again, I'm not just making this boat up, this explorer's ship. I'm not making this up. I'm actually looking at my source material to recreate this boat. Okay. Now, the things that you add to your map might be completely different to what I've chosen. This is me just giving you some ideas. You do not have to make yours look the same as mine, although you might see something that I've done and think, oh, I'm going to have a go at that. I like the look of that. I'm just going to put a flag blowing at the top of the ship there. Right, let's see. I'm going to put in some natural areas. So I'm going to put in a river. Again, I'm not pushing really hard with my pencil. I'm pushing lightly. So here's the tributaries of the river coming together. It's going to flow. And as I'm sure you know, all rivers eventually reach the sea. So all of these tributaries that I'm drawing in are going to eventually come together and flow out to the sea. Okay. I'm going to put in some meanders. And rivers gradually widen as they reach the coast. So you can see my river's a little wider here than it is at the start. And that is geographically accurate. So these are maps. I'll make that a bit thinner there. So where I've made my river a little bit too wide, I'm going to erase that and make it a bit thinner. Right. Little tributary there. I'm going to bring this down here. So this is going to branch off over here. And then I'm going to have multiple little offshoots at the mouth of this river. It's going to be thicker here and thinner there. Okay, right. I'm going to put in some topography now. Topography means the lay of the land, if it's hilly or if it's flat. So often rivers will start in the mountains. Okay, it will maybe be a melting glacier or a natural spring will crop up in the mountains. So where my rivers start, I'm going to put in some topography marks to represent the hilly nature of the river's source. Okay. Now, when I come to paint these hills, and I will do this in a different video, I will try and use some watercolour techniques to make them look more 3D, but I'll explain that in a later video. So let's see. And I might even put in maybe, let's see, maybe a little bit of a forest over here. So I'm just representing my forest with a group of trees. Okay, that can be my forest there. Right, the other thing I really want to add is a compass. You quite often see a compass on these like old-fashioned maps, and I think they look really cool. And I think I might maybe have a go now. So quite often you'll find them up in the corner. So I'm going to have a go at putting a compass in. Now, I'm going to do mine slightly differently, and I'm going to have it at a jaunty angle. So you might want to just do yours completely straight. Again, use source material. Don't just freestyle a compass. You really ought to be looking at a picture of one, okay, to help you. I'm going to use what I can see from my source material to make this compass. Okay, so there's the first part of the compass, and I'm going to put, now, a compass basically gives you the points of orientation, so north, south, east or west. And because I've got mine at a jaunty angle, I'm going to put in my letters. It's kind of nice to do kind of, let's say, fancy typography for the N for north, the S for south, the E for east, and the W for west. So I'm going to just pull in some more of this compass here. There's a lot of circles involved in this. Now, if you're not the greatest at doing freehand circles, which honestly no one is really, freehand circles are hard to do, you ought to use an actual mathematical compass, you know, one of those tools that help you draw a circle perfectly. That would be my recommendation to make this look as accurate as possible. But just for the purposes of getting through this quicker, I've freehanded mine. So here's the south point. So let's say I'm going to put my S, it's going to overlap this here. I'm going to do a bit of an ornate S. Okay, so there's my S. Let's see, let's put in my E for east here. Okay, put in my W for west. I'm just going to move this slightly so I can get, again, use, now my north, I'm going to have to do a bit lower because the top of my compass is near the edge of the page, so I'm going to put my north slightly lower so we can see it. So there's my compass. And I think that's all the pencil detail I'm going to add for now. The next video I'm going to show you is going to be adding detail to your objects on the map. One thing I think I will show you though is how to add the sea effect, because we could do with that drying before we start painting the interior of the island. So I am actually going to demonstrate doing the sea. Now, this is really important. Just like when we did the map, you've got to make this watery, okay? So we're going to do the putting, using our brush like a kind of a pipette or a spoon, and I'm gradually making a little puddle in the lid of my watercolours. This is important. If you paint straight on with blue, it will be too thick and too pigmented. We want to make a really, really watery sea. Now, here's the thing with the sea. Don't paint the whole map. You're just going to paint about a 1 centimetre surrounding of blue. So I'm going to get some blue and I'm going to add it to my water here. Right, now that's really, really watery. But that's perfect. I want it that watery. I might even plonk a bit more water in there. Okay, so this is what we do next. I'm literally just going to paint the water around the edges, and I'm going to go over the S here as well. So I'm going to paint the water around the edges of my islands, my different land masses. And I'm not painting the whole map. I'm just doing, like I said, roughly about a centimetre wide border. Just need that up a little bit. A centimetre wide border around my land areas. Okay. Going to just have a little bit of sea in between here and here, just so they connect slightly. Now, you might not have multiple islands like I have. You might just have one landmass, which is fine. But again, you're just going to do a thin border. I'm might even, while I've got my blue, fill in my rivers. Now, some of these outlines you won't do in pen because it will overpower the delicate lines. So what I will show you in another video is some areas, rather than outlining in black pen, you'll actually outline in a coloured pencil, but a sharp one. So for example, the river, you would probably outline in a sharp blue pencil. Okay. Just go around my island here. Now, when you're looking at your work as like a full composition, you might decide that actually there's a certain area where you feel like you need to add something. So I'm feeling like the corner up here is a bit bare compared to the rest of the map. So I might later on, when I have a chance to reflect on what I've done, I might add something like a sea creature popping out of the sea over here. But that's something to think about after you look at your composition as a whole and you look to see if there are areas that look like they need something to fill up the space, if it's kind of off balance. Okay. Right, I'm nearly done with this. Okay. Right, I think I'm going to leave it like that to dry. And then I'll show you the next steps next time. All right. Thank you, Year 4. Bye-bye.